It was one of those nights where the rain didn't just fall, it punished the city. I've been driving for Uber for about 6 months at that point, mostly night shifts to make extra cash after my day job at a print shop. The streets of Columbus were slick and empty, the kind of eerie quiet that makes you turn the radio down for no reason. My windshield wipers were fighting a losing battle, and I was about to call it quits when the app pinged with a ride request. Middle of nowhere, just off the highway near some rundown industrial park. Weird spot, but hey, surge pricing was kicking in. When I pulled up, the guy was standing under a broken streetlight. No umbrella, just hunched over like he was trying to fold himself into the shadows. His clothes were soaked through, clinging to his skinny frame, and his hair was plastered to his forehead. But what got me was his eyes, wide, darting, the kind of look you see on animals caught in headlights. He practically lunged into my back seat before I could even say hi, gasping, "Motel on Route 9. You know it? Just drive, please, I'll tip extra." His voice was shaky, like he'd been running. I remember thinking this dude's either in trouble or about to give me trouble. But the rain was coming down harder, and the way he kept glancing over his shoulder, I figured I'd just get him where he needed to go. The second he slammed the door shut, the car felt wrong. Not just the wet leather smell or the way his trembling hands left smears on the window, it was the silence. Most passengers fiddle with their phones or make small talk, but this guy, he just kept staring out the back window, his breath coming in short, ragged bursts. I tried to break the ice. "Rough night, huh?" No response. Then out of nowhere, he whispered, "Do you see them?" I checked the rear view. Just empty road and rain. "See who?" He jerked forward, gripping the headrest, his fingers leaving damp prints on the fabric. "The ones in the rain. They've been following me since the highway." My stomach dropped. I've dealt with my share of drunk or high passengers, but this was different. There was no slurred speech, no laughter, just raw, jagged terror. I stepped on the gas, telling myself it was just to get the ride over with faster. The motel was only 10 minutes away, according to my GPS, but the longer we drove, the more he unraveled. He kept muttering under his breath, things like "not again" and "they're getting closer." At one point, he spun around so fast I heard his neck crack, his face pressed against the rear window. "Stop the car," he hissed. I didn't. Big mistake. The GPS led me down a service road lined with skeletal trees, their branches clawing at the car like they were trying to slow us down. The motel sign finally came into view. Sunset Lodge, half the letters dead, the neon glow flickering like a dying pulse. The place looked straight out of a horror movie. Boarded up windows, a parking lot choked with weeds, and this thick, unnatural mist clinging to the ground. My fingers tightened on the wheel. You sure this is the right place?" The guy didn't answer. When I glanced back, he was frozen, staring at the motel's office door like it had just whispered his name. Then it happened. 1 second he was there, breathing like a cornered animal. The next, my back seat was empty. Just gone. I slammed the brakes, my heart jackhammering against my ribs. "Hey, H-E-Y." I threw open the door, rain stinging my face as I scanned the lot. No footsteps, no shadow darting between buildings. Nothing. That's when I saw it. His jacket crumpled on the seat like a shed skin. I reached for it, and my hand came away sticky. The overhead light confirmed it. Dark, smeared streaks of blood, still wet. The coppery smell hit me a second later, and I gagged. That jacket hadn't been bloody when he got in. At least, I didn't think that I don't remember driving away, but suddenly I was back on the highway, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles ached. The jacket was balled up in the passenger footwell like some kind of cursed object. I should have thrown it out the window, but part of me was terrified that if I touched it again, he'd reappear in my back seat. My phone buzzed. Uber's trip summary. Fare completed. $14.72. Normal, except when I tapped it. The passenger's name was just a string of garbled symbols, and under drop-off location, it read, data available. That's when I noticed the mud. Thick, swampy clumps of it on my floor mats, reeking of wet earth and something rotten underneath. I hadn't driven near any mud. Pulling over at a gas station, I called the police. The officer who showed up looked at me like I was either high or insane. He took the jacket, but when he unfolded it, His face changed. "Where'd you say you picked this guy up?" I told him, and he just nodded like it confirmed something. Then, casual as hell, he said, "Third time this month. Different drivers, same description. Always near that motel." My blood went cold. Did they find him? The cop hesitated, then shook his head. "No, but last driver said his passenger kept screaming about the ones who come out of the ground when it rains." He wouldn't elaborate, just handed me a card and told me to call if I remembered anything else. I didn't sleep for days that I tried to shake it off. Told myself it was just some tweaker who'd messed with the wrong people. But then the dreams started. Every time it rained, I'd see him in my back seat, mouthing the same words, "They're closer now." I stopped driving nights. Hell, I sold the car a month later when I found more of that mud under the seats, even though I'd scrubbed it. The weirdest part? A week after the incident, I got a notification from Uber, a $100 tip from that ride. The payment cleared, but when I checked the trip history, it was gone, like it never happened. Sometimes when the rain's heavy and the roads are empty, I still glance at my rearview mirror. And for a split second, I swear I see a figure standing under a broken streetlight, soaked to the bone, staring at passing cars like he's waiting for the right one to stop. I never do, but somebody else will. It was one of those late-night shifts where the city felt alive in a different way. Less traffic, more shadows. I've been driving for Uber for about a year, so weird passengers weren't new to me, but something about this guy set off alarms the second he got in. He was pale, like he hadn't slept in days, and his hands wouldn't stop shaking. He didn't even greet me, just slammed the door shut and said, "Hospital, now." No please, no explanation. I asked if he was okay, and he just stared at me like I'd asked the dumbest question in the world. "Just drive." The GPS said 20 minutes to the nearest ER, but felt longer. The whole ride, he kept checking his phone, muttering under his breath. At first, I thought he was talking to me, but then I caught bits of it they know and shouldn't have taken it. His leg was bouncing like he was wired on something, and every time a car passed us, he'd tense up like he was expecting a bullet. I tried to focus on the road, but my gut was screaming that this wasn't just some sick guy. This was someone running from something. Or someone. About halfway there, he suddenly leaned forward, gripping the headrest of my seat so hard his knuckles turned white. "Turn here," he demanded, pointing down a side street I'd never taken before. It was darker there, barely any street lights, and the buildings looked abandoned. I hesitated. This wasn't the route, and something about the emptiness of that street made my skin crawl. But the way he said it, like it wasn't a request, made me swerve at the last second. I could hear him breathing fast, like a cornered animal. Then his phone buzzed again, and this time he flinched like the sound physically hurt him. He stared at the screen, and I'll never forget the way his voice cracked when he whispered, "They're close." I didn't know who they were, but the fear in his voice was real. My hands tightened on the wheel. I was about to ask if he wanted me to call the cops when he suddenly barked, "Stop the car." Not pull over, stop. Right there, in the middle of the damn road. No street signs, no houses, just empty pavement and the glow of my headlights cutting through the dark. The second I hit the brakes, he was out of the car before I could even ask if he needed help. No goodbye, no explanation, just the door swinging open and his silhouette vanishing into the shadows between two buildings. The street was dead silent, the kind of quiet where you notice your own heartbeat. My headlights lit up the empty sidewalk for a few seconds, but he was already gone, like the darkness had swallowed him whole. I sat there, engine idling, half expecting him to come running back. But nothing moved. Not even the wind. I don't know how long I waited, maybe 30 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, before I finally pulled away. My hands were sweating on the wheel, and I kept checking the rearview mirror like I'd see him chasing the car, or worse, someone else. The rest of the drive home was a blur. I turned the radio on just to fill the silence, but every song felt wrong, like background music to something I wasn't supposed to witness. When I got back to my apartment, I locked the door twice and poured a drink, trying to shake the feeling that I just dropped a man off at the edge of his own grave. The next morning, I almost convinced myself I'd overreacted until I saw the news. Local headlines screamed about a body found in an alley just a few blocks from where I dropped him off. The report was vague, just suspicious circumstances and ongoing investigation. But my stomach dropped when they flashed a grainy security cam still of a figure in dark clothes. The height, the build, it could have been him. I kept waiting for them to say it was a drug deal gone wrong or a robbery, but the anchor just moved on to the weather like it was nothing that I scrolled through every local news site that day, digging for details. Nothing. No name, no cause of death, just that hollow phrase. Police are asking anyone with information to come forward. I thought about calling, but what would I say? That I drove a nervous guy who didn't want cops involved? That I left him in the dark like an idiot? The guilt gnawed at me, but worse was the paranoia. For weeks, I jumped at every ping from my Uber app, half expecting his name to pop up again. Or worse, the names of the people he'd been running from. I stopped taking late-night rides after that. Couldn't shake the image of his face in the rearview mirror, eyes wide and darting like he was already seeing whatever caught up to him. Sometimes, when I'm driving past that part of town, I'll slow down near that empty street, just for a second, just to see if the pavement looks different. But it's always just asphalt and shadows. No blood, no cops, no answers. Whatever happened that night, it stayed there. And part of me knows, really knows, that if I had driven faster or slower or ignored that turn, I might have been more than just a driver. I might have been a witness. The weirdest part? A month later, I got a random 5-star rating from an account with no name, no photo, no ride history. Just the words, "Thanks for the lift," in the feedback box. Could have been a glitch. Could have been him. I'll never know. But sometimes, when it's real late and the streets are too quiet, I'll check the back seat before I start the car. Just in case that a cop came into the diner where I eat sometimes, and I almost asked him about the case, just casually like I wasn't involved. But then I imagined how that'd sound. Hey, so that dead guy near 5th and Marlowe, was he real jumpy before it happened? I kept my mouth shut. The way the cop laughed at something his partner said, loud and easy, told me they weren't losing sleep over it. But I did. Started dreaming about it too. Always the same thing, me driving that route again. But this time, the backseat's full of whispers and the GPS keeps rerouting me down that same damn street no matter how hard I swerve. Last week, I found a crumpled receipt under my passenger seat, a gas station stop from before that ride. Except I don't remember picking it up, and the date on it was from after that night. No name, just a timestamp, 3:17 a.m. The exact minute I dropped him off. Could have fallen out of his pocket. Could have been there all along. I burned it in my sink, watching the edges curl black like I was destroying evidence. Now I keep thinking about the way he whispered, "They're close," and I wonder if he meant they were following us the whole time. If maybe, for a little while, I was part of the debt. I'm a 34-year-old rideshare driver in Cincinnati. Been doing this nights since my divorce to pay the bills. Not gonna lie, most passengers blur together. Drunk college kids, nurses leaving late shifts, the occasional weirdo. But this guy, I remember every detail. October 12th, 2023. Rain smearing the windshield like the city was crying. Got a ping at 2:17 a.m. near the abandoned Kroger on Vine Street. Pin dropped at one of those bus shelters with ads peeled halfway off, revealing older ads underneath like layers of dead skin. When I pulled up, he was already sprinting toward my car before I stopped. White guy, early 20s, wearing a gray hoodie with the University of Cincinnati logo, but the fabric was stretched and pilled like he'd slept in it for weeks. His left sneaker had a broken lace tied in 3 knots. He didn't greet me, just threw himself into the back seat with this animal-like whimper and said, "Lock the doors." Now, I saw his hands shaking in my rear view, not like caffeine jitters, but full-body tremors. His phone screen was cracked in a spiderweb pattern, glowing with a half-typed note. I caught 2 words before he tilted it away. They remember. The second I confirmed his destination, Willowbrook Apartments, that boarded-up hellhole near the old slaughterhouse, my fingers tightened on the wheel. I'd only been there once before, when some wasted frat kid thought it'd be funny to fake a drop-off. But this guy? He kept twisting in his seat to check the back window, his breathing getting faster every time headlights appear behind us. At one point, he suddenly gasped and slid all the way down until just his eyes peeked over the door. "That black SUV," he whispered. It's been following us since the bus stop. I checked my mirrors. The road was empty. He started muttering to himself around the 75 overpass. Not full sentences, just jagged phrases like wrong turn and not the same as last time. When I asked if he was okay, he lunged forward and grabbed my headrest, making me swerve. His pupils were huge, black pools swallowing the blue of his eyes. "You have to listen," he hissed. "If the third-floor corner window is lit up when we get there, don't let me out. Drive straight to the police station." I laughed nervously, said something stupid like "Sure, buddy," but then I felt it. His fingernails digging into my shoulder through the seat, cold and sharp like he'd been standing in a freezer. When we pulled up to Willowbrook, the complex looked even worse than I remembered. Chain-link fence sagging like rotten teeth, graffiti that seemed to move in the flickering streetlight. The kid's whole body locked up when he saw the third-floor window. It wasn't just lit. Something was blocking the light in patches, like a person pressing against the glass from inside. He made this noise, half groan, half whimper, and fumbled for his wallet with shaking hands. "Keep the change," he blurted, shoving a crumpled $50 at me. The bill felt damp, like he'd been sweating through his clothes for hours. He bolted from the car so fast he left his phone between the seats. I rolled down the window to call after him, but the smell hit me first, rotting meat and wet concrete, so thick I gagged. That's when I noticed the apartment's front door wasn't just unlocked. It was broken, hanging crooked on its hinges with deep scratches radiating from the knob. The kid was already halfway up the stairs when he suddenly froze, head snapping toward the third floor. A shadow slid across the lit window. Not walking, dripping, like something melting against the glass. That I was still staring at the kid's phone in my hand when it suddenly buzzed to life. An incoming call from his own number. The screen glitched, alternating between his contact photo, a blurry group shot at a Reds game, and static that looked like teeth gnashing. I answered, and what came through wasn't his voice. It was wet, guttural, like someone trying to speak around a mouthful of raw meat. "You left the car running." Behind me, my engine revved on its own, headlights flaring bright enough to illuminate the third-floor window again. The shadow was gone. The glass was now completely black, like something had spilled across it from the inside. I don't know why I got out. Maybe because the kid's phone was now playing audio, a looping whimper of "no-no-no-no," or because my driver's side door suddenly swung open by itself. The building's lobby was worse up close. The carpet squished underfoot, releasing that coppery stench. Then I heard it, a wet pop from upstairs like a joint dislocating, followed by something heavy being dragged. The kid's phone in my hand lit up with a new notification, a screenshot for what looked like a security camera. Grainy footage showed a figure crouched in a closet, its spine bent at impossible angles, fingers probing the ceiling tiles. The timestamp read today, 2:42 a.m. I ran back to the car, so fast I nearly tripped over a broken cinder block. Except when I looked down, it wasn't a block. It was a shoe. His shoe, the one with the triple knotted lace, still warm inside like the foot had just slipped out. My keys jangled as I fumbled to restart the engine, but the ignition just clicked. That's when the headlights died, plunging everything into perfect darkness except for the kid's phone in my lap. The screen now showed a live feed, a shaky view of my own face from above, like something was filming me from the car's ceiling. Behind my headrest, the backseat window began fogging up, not from heat, from breath. I smashed the phone against the dashboard. The screen didn't crack. Instead, it displayed one final message in pulsating red text: "Check your trunk." My fingers left sweat streaks on the trunk release as I yanked it. The mechanism groaned, then jammed halfway. Through the gap, I saw what looked like a bundle of wet clothes, until it moved. A hand, pale and glistening, slithered toward the opening. The fingers weren't right. Too many joints. They scratched against the metal like they were testing its strength. I slammed the trunk shut with my full weight, just as the car's radio blasted static, and beneath it, a voice whispering, "You should have driven faster." The engine finally turned over. I peeled out so fast, I left rubber on the pavement. Didn't stop until I hit a gas station under stadium lights. Called the cops, but they found nothing. No shoe, no hand, no kid. Just an empty apartment building scheduled for demolition. But here's what they wouldn't explain. The fresh scratches inside my trunk lid. 5 long grooves, deeper at the top, like whatever made them was hanging down. And the smell. That sweet rotten stench of open graves that I quit rideshare the next day. Or tried to. Because last night, the app activated itself on my phone. A new request popped up. Pickup, Willowbrook APTS. Passenger E. Reyes. That was the kid's name, Ethan Reyes. Missing since August. The map showed the pin moving toward my house. When I looked outside, the street light across the road flickered out. One by one, coming closer.